What's up everybody, Ramey here, and today we're talking about J-cups and whether they should be facing, inside, so they swerve this way, or outside on your squat rack. And I'm going to talk about some scenarios when they should be facing each way, some different kind of J-cups in general. And we're going to talk a little bit about when you decide and how you decide to put your J-cups on the rack. Now, I'm not talking about positioning like height, because obviously that's where it's comfortable for you for safeties and loading and unloading your bar. But when you put your J-cups on, there are some considerations about which way they go. The first question I always have to myself is, what kind of J-cups do you have? Because there are J-cups that are super thick, like these are regular J-cups. You can see how they are several inches in width here. And these are sandwich J-cups. Look how much thinner they are. Why does that matter? Because the second question that I ask is, what kind of bar am I putting on my rack? So if I'm putting a certain bar on, for example, my Titan Safety Squat Bar, my Titan Safety Squat Bar has the tendency to want to push my J-cup this way. You can see in the picture, actually I'll show you a picture of my Titan Safety Squat Bar. It tends to push the J-cups this way. I don't like that. I don't want my J-cups to be pushed that way, do I? No, that's not good, because if I'm re-racking the bar and I do it really bad, chances are it's not going to fall. It'll take a lot to fall out, but it's still a risk I don't need to take. So when I am putting my safety squat bar on the bar and using these bigger J-cups, I typically always have the little ledge here facing on the outside so that it cannot come in on my safety squat bar. Now, when I'm using a different kind of J-cup, these thinner ones, that's much less likely to happen, and it matters much less on that specific bar which way the J-cups are facing. But there are still reasons I consider what way it's facing for this bar. And for regular, now this is just I'm imagining this is a bench bar because I'm doing it for this demonstration. But just imagine this is a bar going all the way across my rack, just a normal standard powerlifting bar. I still consider what way my J-cups are facing always. So that scenario I just played out with the safety squat bar is probably one of the only scenarios, I'm sure there's others, but it's one of the real only ones that I ever have where I have the J-cup facing out like this. Typically, my J-cups are always facing inside. Why would that be? Well, the J-cups I use most often, first of all, are always thin. I typically don't use these thick ones anymore. These are old. I typically use thin ones like rollers or sandwich J-cups, which are a lot thinner, so they hold a lot more bars without that problem I had with my safety squat bar. But if you look at the edge of all these J-cups, they all have this. This is a solid 1/4 of an inch thick, if not bigger on certain J-cups. And there's a reason I typically always want this facing inside. And why is that? When I am going to re-rack my bar, let's say I put up a really big lift, squat or bench, and I'm failing, or it's just really tough and I'm struggling to even get it back on the bar. When I go put it back on the bar and I slam it, if I have this facing on the outside, there's a much greater chance that this sleeve is going to smack this instead of going on correctly. Whereas right here on the lower one where it's facing inside, that gives me an extra 1/4 of an inch. Now, you're saying, well, it's a 1/4 of an inch, that's not a big deal. Well, multiplied times 2, because I got 2 J-cups, now we're talking about 1/2 an inch. And on certain squat racks, like a Rogue rack especially, now this is Titan series, so I get a little more room, a rep gives you a little more room. Rogue racks are 50 inches across. You might only have 1 inch or 2 inches on the bar between the sleeves not to mess up. So all of a sudden, that 1/4 to a 1/2 inch makes a huge difference. And you need your J-cup facing on the inside like this. Additionally, reasons why so that's the biggest reason. Additionally, why I like it facing on the inside, I use a lot of stuff on the outside of my rack, and it's just smooth. There's nothing for me to hit there. It's nice and smooth on the outside of my rack versus this, which has it on the outside. Now, other reasons I might put it on the outside, if you're using a certain specialty bar that's pushing it, you know, pushing it this way, pushing it this way, yeah. That's really the only reason I can think of that you're really using this kind of rack, or for some reason you like rack it like that. But typically, most of your J-cups are going to be facing, they're going to be on the inside. This bar is going to be facing inside, so they swing inside, not out. There are also J-cups out there like my rollers, which have a lock on them. So my rollers actually lock up on my J-cups, so they can't swing with my safety bar. But even still, on typically anything that I'm lifting, these won't swing. I still prefer to put these on the inside for the slick reason, so that I don't hit. I do not want to hit. So typically always facing on the inside. Yeah, just something to think about. So always ask yourself, what direction is it going? Do I have some specialty bar that's going to make it swing? I'd probably put it in the opposite direction. And if not, I don't want it facing, if I'm just doing regular stuff, I don't want anything sticking out to hit my sleeves. All right? All right, y'all. Later.